The email arrived on a dull Wednesday afternoon, its subject line simple yet enticing. Private yoga session. Adam, the instructor who had been guiding my classes for months, had reached out personally. My heart raced as I read the words, and a familiar guilt began to creep in. Jake, my husband, always encouraged my journey towards better health and wellness. "You deserve this," he would say, his eyes full of support. But the thought of accepting Adam's invitation felt like flipping a switch in the dark. I hesitated, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. What would I say to Jake? Would he even understand? But an unexpected thrill coursed through me, a spark that I hadn't felt in a long time. I hit reply before I could second-guess myself. I'd love to. As I prepared for the session, excitement battled with anxiety. What was I doing? I could almost hear my heart pounding in my ears as I imagined Adam's piercing gaze, the way his confidence radiated in every class. What if there was something more between us? "Are you ready?" I whispered to myself, the mirror reflecting a mix of determination and uncertainty. A smile crept onto my lips, a secret shared only with the universe. I caught a glimpse of my phone, the screen still lit with Adam's invitation. A thrill of anticipation washed over me as I wondered what would happen in that intimate space. Just the two of us. Would I dare to cross the line that had kept me safe until now? The moment I stepped into the yoga studio in San Francisco, a wave of calm washed over me. The soft lighting bathed the room in a warm glow, and the enticing scents of sandalwood and lavender enveloped me like a gentle embrace. I had been looking forward to this class for weeks, but today felt different. Today, I was about to meet Adam, the instructor who had sent me that unexpected email inviting me for a private session. As I unrolled my mat, I felt a mix of anticipation and nervousness bubbling inside me. I glanced around the studio, hoping to catch a glimpse of him. And then, there he was. Adam strode in, confidence radiating from him. Our eyes met, and in that instant, something electrifying sparked between us. It took my breath away. He had a way of looking at me that made me feel seen, as if I were the only person in the room. "Welcome," he said, his voice smooth and inviting. "I'm glad you could make it." "Thanks for inviting me," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. I could feel my heart racing, and I hoped he didn't notice. As we began the session, his instructions flowed effortlessly, each word laced with authority and warmth. I found myself hanging on his every syllable, captivated by the way he moved around the room, adjusting the other students' postures with such grace. When he approached me for the first time, my breath hitched. "Let me help you with that pose," he said, his voice low and soothing. He reached out, placing his hands on my hips to guide me. The moment his fingers brushed my skin, a jolt of heat surged through me, igniting something deep within. I could barely focus on the alignment of my body. All I could think about was the sensation of his touch. "Good," he murmured, his breath warm against my ear. "Just relax into it." I had always been devoted to my husband, Jake. He had supported my journey toward wellness and encouraged my yoga practice. Yet, with each moment spent with Adam, I felt myself slipping further away from the life I had built with Jake. The tension in the room grew palpable, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was shifting between us. As the class came to an end, Adam smiled at me. "You did really well today. I hope to see you again for another session." "I'd like that," I replied, my heart pounding. I could feel a connection forming, something I had never anticipated. Walking out of the studio, I couldn't help but replay every moment in my mind. The way he had looked at me, the way his hands had felt on my body. I had a sense that this was just the beginning of something I couldn't fully understand yet. As I drove home, my thoughts were a whirlpool of excitement and confusion. What was happening to me? When I got home, Jake greeted me with a warm smile and a kiss on the cheek. "How was yoga?" "It was great," I said, forcing a smile. "Adam is a really good instructor." "Maybe I should join you next time," he suggested, his tone light. I felt a pang of guilt at the thought. "I could use some relaxation." "Sure, that would be fun," I replied, though my mind was already racing with images of Adam, his hands on my body, his voice whispering in my ear. I couldn't shake the thrill that coursed through me. Days passed, and I found myself counting down to my next session with Adam. Each time we met, the tension grew, and I felt the pull between us intensify. I started to look forward to the way he would adjust my posture, the way our bodies would almost touch, sending shivers down my spine. One day, after a particularly intense session, Adam invited me to his home for a private lesson. I hesitated, my mind racing with thoughts of Jake, but the thrill of being alone with Adam was too enticing to resist. I found myself saying yes before I could think it through, my heart racing with anticipation. When I arrived at his house, the atmosphere felt intimate and inviting. The walls were adorned with beautiful artwork, and soft music played in the background. As we began our session, the playful banter between us quickly escalated into flirty exchanges. The air crackled with unspoken desire, and I could feel the chemistry between us growing stronger by the minute. "Let's try something new," Adam suggested, his eyes glinting with mischief. "Come here, I want to show you a different pose." I moved closer, and as he adjusted my stance, our bodies brushed against each other. The heat between us was undeniable, and I could feel my heart racing. I knew I was playing with fire, yet I was drawn to him like a moth to a flame. "Just breathe," he instructed, his voice low and velvety. I could barely concentrate on his words. All I could think about was the way his hands felt on my skin. The moment lingered, charged with tension, and I knew we were on the precipice of something that could change everything. "Adam," I breathed, unsure of what I was about to say. But before I could finish, he leaned in closer, his lips brushing against mine in a soft, tentative kiss. It ignited a fire within me, and I melted into him, losing myself in the moment. All thoughts of Jake faded away as passion consumed us. In that instant, I made a choice that would lead me down a path I had never envisioned for myself. I was sitting at my kitchen table when the email from Adam popped up in my inbox. It was an invitation to a private yoga lesson. My heart raced as I read the words. Just a week ago, I had been in a class with him, feeling the electricity in the air between us as he guided our movements. I glanced over at Jake, my husband, who was humming to himself while flipping through a magazine. He had always supported my quest for well-being, encouraging me to explore yoga and mindfulness. But something about Adam's invitation stirred something deep inside me. I hesitated, fingers hovering over the keyboard. What would Jake think if I accepted? I could almost hear his voice, encouraging me to take opportunities, to embrace new experiences. A thrill coursed through me. I typed a quick reply, my heart pounding as I pressed send. As the days passed, my anticipation grew. I chose my outfit carefully for the lesson, wanting to look casual, yet put together. I imagined Adam's eyes on me, the way they sparkled with interest. I felt a wave of excitement wash over me, mixed with a tinge of guilt. What was I doing? I was a wife, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was on the edge of something exhilarating. When I arrived at Adam's studio, the atmosphere enveloped me like a warm embrace. Soft light filtered through the windows, and the scent of sandalwood filled the air. I took a deep breath, letting the calm wash over me. Then, I saw him. Adam stood by the front of the room, his presence commanding yet approachable. Our eyes met, and I felt a jolt of recognition. It was more than attraction. It was a connection that made my heart race. "Glad you could make it," he said, his voice smooth and inviting. "Thanks for having me," I replied, trying to sound nonchalant, but the tremor in my voice betrayed me. As the class progressed, I found myself hanging on his every word. His instructions flowed effortlessly, wrapping around me like a silk ribbon. When he adjusted my posture, his hands brushed against my skin, igniting a spark I had never felt before. I could barely focus on the poses. All I could think about was the way his fingers lingered just a moment too long. After a few lessons, Adam invited me to his home for a private session. A rush of excitement surged through me, but it was quickly followed by a wave of hesitation. I glanced at Jake, who was busy with his work, completely unaware of the turmoil inside me. I pushed the thought of him aside, telling myself it was just yoga. When I arrived at Adam's house, I was struck by the intimacy of the space. The room was filled with soft lighting and the gentle sound of music. I instantly felt more vulnerable, yet strangely at ease. "Make yourself comfortable," he said, gesturing to a mat laid out in the center of the room. I sat down, and we started talking. The conversation flowed effortlessly, but underneath the surface, a current of tension began to build. I could feel the atmosphere shift as our discussions turned into playful banter. His eyes sparkled with mischief, and I could hardly concentrate on his words. "What do you think about trying something a bit more advanced today?" he asked, his tone teasing. "I'm up for the challenge," I replied, my heart racing. As he guided me through each movement, I found myself leaning in closer to him. Our bodies almost touched, and the air between us crackled with unspoken words. I could see the desire flickering in his eyes, mirroring the heat pooling in my stomach. It was during a particularly intimate pose that I felt the line we were dancing on start to blur. I was so focused on him, on the way his breath came in quick bursts as he demonstrated, that I didn't notice how close we had become until our arms brushed against each other. "Sorry," I whispered, heat flooding my cheeks. "Don't be," he replied, his voice low and inviting. "It's nice to feel connected." I swallowed hard, a mix of thrill and fear swirling within me. Deep down, I knew I was crossing a line, but the thrill of it was intoxicating. In that moment, I decided to let go of my reservations, if only for a second. I reached out, lightly touching his arm during a demonstration. The spark was immediate and electric. Adam's gaze locked onto mine, filled with a desire that left me breathless. "Wow," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "You have no idea what you're doing to me." It was a confession, simple yet profound, and it sent a shiver down my spine. I hesitated, but the air between us felt thick with possibility. I took a step closer, my heart pounding in my chest. "Maybe I want to find out," I replied, my voice barely audible as I leaned in. Before I could think better of it, our lips met in a heated kiss. It was unexpected and wild, igniting a fire within me that I had never known. I lost myself in the moment, forgetting everything and everyone outside of Adam and me. The kiss deepened, and I felt like I was floating, completely consumed by the rush of passion. I was aware of the betrayal I was committing against Jake, but the thrill was too powerful to resist. In that instant, nothing else mattered. The day had finally come. The day I had both anticipated and dreaded. I stood in front of the mirror, running my fingers through my hair, trying to calm the fluttering in my stomach. My heart raced as I thought about the invitation Adam had sent me for a private yoga session. It felt like a whirlwind, the excitement mixed with an undercurrent of guilt. Jake, my husband, always encouraged me to pursue my interests, but I could not shake the feeling of betrayal. "Are you ready?" I whispered to my reflection, though I knew the answer was no. But something inside me throbbed with anticipation. I was drawn to Adam, his voice, and the way he moved with such confidence. I imagined how it would feel to be close to him, to share a space devoid of Jake's warm but heavy presence. As I made my way to the studio, I wondered if I had made the right choice. I parked my car and took a deep breath before stepping inside. The studio was bathed in soft light, the air fragrant with lavender and sandalwood. It felt serene, yet the tension in my body told me it was anything but peaceful. "Welcome," Adam said, his smile warm and inviting. The way he looked at me sent electric shivers down my spine. "I'm glad you came." "Thanks for inviting me," I replied, trying to sound casual, but my voice betrayed me, quivering slightly. "Let's start with some breathing exercises," he suggested, his voice smooth as silk. As we began, I focused on my breath, but my mind kept wandering to him. I could feel the air between us crackling, charged with an energy I had never experienced before. When he adjusted my posture, his hands brushing against my skin, I felt my breath hitch in my throat. Each touch ignited something deep within me. I could feel his warmth radiating, and I wondered if he could sense the heat rising in me, the unspoken desire bubbling under the surface. "Just relax," Adam murmured, his voice soft yet commanding. I nodded, but my mind raced. What was happening to me? My body responded to him in a way I had never felt before. It was intoxicating and frightening all at once. As the weeks went by, I found myself drawn to Adam and his classes more and more. Each session was a dance of tension and attraction. One evening, he invited me to his home for a private lesson. I hesitated, my heart pounding with nervous excitement. "Don't worry," he assured me, his eyes locking onto mine. "We'll take it slow." That night, his home felt intimate and inviting. The soft glow of candlelight flickered against the walls, creating an atmosphere that wrapped around us like a comforting embrace. We started with light conversation, but it quickly turned into playful teasing. "Do you always wear those leggings to yoga?" he asked, a cheeky grin on his face. "Only when I want to impress my instructor," I shot back, biting my lip to suppress a smile. The air thickened as our bodies moved closer. I could feel the warmth radiating from him, and it felt like we were suspended in a moment that was both exhilarating and terrifying. Then came the moment I had dreaded and longed for, the first real touch. During a demonstration, I couldn't resist and reached out to lightly touch his arm. The connection was electric. Adam's gaze shifted, filled with an intensity that made my heart race. "Do you feel that?" he whispered, his breath warm against my cheek. I nodded, unable to form words. The atmosphere shifted, and before I knew it, he leaned in closer. Our lips met in a rush of passion that took my breath away. It was unexpected, overwhelming. I had completely forgotten about Jake in that moment, lost in the sheer intensity of Adam's kiss. "What are we doing?" I murmured against his lips, my mind racing with guilt. "I don't know," he replied, his voice thick with desire. "But I can't stop." Neither could I. Despite the chaos swirling in my mind, the pull towards him was undeniable. I felt alive, free, and yet haunted by the knowledge that I was betraying my husband. As our affair unfolded, the thrill of secret meetings became intoxicating. Each rendezvous was a new adventure, a dance of stolen moments filled with passion. The world outside faded, leaving only us and the electric connection we shared. But with every stolen kiss, every whispered promise, the weight of my choices pressed heavily on my chest. I felt the thrill of being with Adam, but Jake's face haunted my thoughts. I was living in two worlds, and the guilt was like a shadow that trailed me wherever I went. Returning home after those encounters was always the hardest part. Jake would greet me with his warm smile, oblivious to the turmoil raging inside me. I fought to act normal, but my heart was miles away, and I could feel the tension building between us. "What's wrong?" Jake would ask, concern lacing his voice. Nothing. Just tired, I'd reply, forcing a smile that felt like a mask. Each day, I found myself caught in a web of lies, exchanging messages with Adam that grew bolder with every passing moment. The thrill of our secret communication only deepened my longing for him. Then came the day Adam suggested a weekend getaway, a cabin far away from everything. My heart raced at the idea, a mix of excitement and dread swirling inside me. "I'll tell Jake I'm going to a yoga retreat," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "Sounds perfect," Adam replied, a mischievous glint in his eyes. As I planned this escape, I felt alive with the thrill of our secret, but the fear of being found out lingered in the back of my mind. "Just a weekend," I kept telling myself, trying to justify the choice that felt both exhilarating and wrong. But deep down, I knew I was crossing a line, and there was no turning back. The anticipation grew as I drove to the cabin, my heart pounding with every mile. Each detail of the place, the rustic charm, the quiet surroundings, added to the heady atmosphere. Once I stepped inside, I felt a rush of freedom wash over me. Our time together was filled with laughter, intimacy, and moments that felt stolen from reality. I lost myself in Adam, in the way he looked at me, the way he made me feel. Each touch ignited something within me, and I never wanted it to end. But as the weekend progressed, a sense of unease began to creep in. I was betraying Jake, and while the passion I shared with Adam was intoxicating, I could feel the weight of my choices pressing down on me. Even as I laughed and kissed Adam, a small voice in my head whispered that I was playing with fire. I knew I was walking a tightrope, and one misstep could shatter everything. But in those stolen moments, the thrill of desire drowned out the voice of reason. As I surrendered to the passion of the weekend, I felt a twinge of fear mixed with exhilaration. I was caught in a whirlwind, and I had no intention of escaping it just yet. I'm sitting on the edge of the bed, the soft morning light filtering through the curtains, when I receive the email from Adam. My heart races as I read his invitation for a private yoga class. I glance at Jake, still asleep beside me, his peaceful expression reminding me of the life we've built together. He has always encouraged my quest for wellness, and here I am, about to throw it all away for a chance to be near someone else. I hesitate, fingers hovering over the keyboard, battling the excitement coursing through me. What if it's just yoga? What if it's nothing? But deep down, I know it's more than that. I can feel the pull towards Adam, a magnetic force I can't quite explain. In a moment of reckless impulse, I type a quick response, my pulse quickening with each keystroke. I hit send and take a deep breath, feeling a mix of exhilaration and dread. As the day of the first class approaches, my anticipation grows. I can hardly focus on anything else. I stand in front of my mirror, fiddling with my hair, trying on different outfits, but nothing feels right. I finally settle on my favorite yoga pants and a fitted top that shows just enough skin. I want to look good, to feel confident. The studio is everything I imagined and more. It's bathed in warm light and filled with the soothing scent of essential oils. As I roll out my mat, I catch Adam's gaze. The moment feels electric, a silent acknowledgement passing between us. I can't help but feel breathless. "Welcome," he says, his voice smooth and calming. "Let's start with some deep breaths." I follow his instructions, but I can't focus. The way he moves, the authority in his tone, it all captivates me. When he comes closer to adjust my posture, his hands brush against my skin, igniting something deep within me. My heart races as I try to maintain my composure. As the weeks go by, the classes become more frequent. Adam invites me to his home for a private session, and I feel a thrill of excitement mixed with anxiety. The moment I step into his space, I'm enveloped in an intimate atmosphere that feels charged with possibility. "Make yourself comfortable," he says, his smile warm and inviting. I nod, my heart pounding in my chest. We start with small talk, but it quickly turns into something more flirtatious. The tension between us palpable. I can feel the heat radiating from him as we move closer, our bodies almost touching. One day, during a demonstration, I can't hold back. I reach out to touch his arm, and the moment my skin connects with his, everything shifts. He looks at me, desire burning in his eyes, and I feel as if the ground has fallen away beneath my feet. "Let's not pretend anymore," he whispers, moving closer. Before I know it, our lips collide in a kiss that feels like everything I've been missing. It's intense and consuming, and for that brief moment, I forget all about Jake. Now, everything changes. Our meetings become more heated, filled with stolen moments of passion. I find myself in a hotel room with Adam, the air thick with anticipation. The thrill of secrecy courses through me as we explore each other's bodies, every touch igniting a fire deep within. "God, this feels so right," Adam murmurs, pulling me closer. I nod, lost in the pleasure of the moment, the world outside fading away. Each kiss, each caress feels like a promise of something more. I know I should feel guilty, that I should stop. But the freedom I experience with Adam is intoxicating. The echo of my regrets lingers in the back of my mind, but the heat of passion consumes me. When I return home to Jake, I put on my best face, trying to act normal. He looks at me with concern, and I can see the questions in his eyes. I brush it off, telling him about my day, but inside, I'm a whirlwind of emotions. "Are you okay?" he asks, his brow furrowed with worry. "Of course," I reply, forcing a smile. "Just tired from yoga." I can't shake the feeling that he suspects something. The little details, my distracted phone use, the way I get lost in thought. But I ignore it, consumed by the thrill of my secret life. Each message from Adam sends shivers down my spine, escalating our connection and desire. "Can't stop thinking about you," he texts one night, and I feel a rush of excitement. My heart races as I respond, each message more daring than the last. Nights spent with Jake become a strange mix of intimacy and distance. He holds me close, but my mind drifts to Adam. I find myself craving the thrill of our meetings, the intensity of our connection. Then comes the invitation for a weekend away, a chance to escape everything. Adam suggests a secluded cabin, and I feel a rush of adrenaline. "Just tell Jake you're going on a yoga retreat," he says, his eyes sparkling with mischief. I hesitate, but the thought of being with Adam, completely free, is too tempting. I craft a lie for Jake, my heart pounding as I tell him my plans. "I need this retreat," I say, trying to sound convincing. As I arrive at the cabin, everything feels perfect. The air is crisp, and the surroundings are breathtaking. Adam takes my hand, guiding me inside, and I can already feel the tension building between us. "Let's make the most of this," he murmurs, and I nod, heart racing with anticipation. Days blend into nights filled with laughter and passion. Each moment feels like a step deeper into this intoxicating affair. We explore the outdoors, but it's the quiet moments inside that ignite the flames of desire. "Stay with me," he whispers as we lie together, and I can't help but feel a sense of belonging. I know it's wrong, that I'm betraying Jake, but in these moments, I feel more alive than ever. But as the weekend comes to a close, reality looms over me. I return home, trying to suppress the euphoria bubbling inside me. Jake tries to connect, but I feel distant, my mind drifting back to Adam. "Are you sure everything's all right?" Jake asks, concern etched on his face. "Just tired," I reply, feeling the weight of my deception. But I can't shake the feeling that I want more. The thought of seeing Adam again consumes me, and when he proposes another meeting, I know I can't resist. "Let's meet next week," he suggests, his voice low and enticing. My heart races as I consider my options. The life I have with Jake, the love we share, feels like a distant memory compared to the thrill of being with Adam. "I want to," I reply, feeling a rush of freedom wash over me. I know I'm choosing a dangerous path, but the exhilaration of my decision feels like a weight lifting off my shoulders. I'm ready to embrace the passion that has taken over my life, leaving guilt and regret behind. As I envision our next encounter, I can't help but feel a sense of liberation, knowing that the affair is far from over. I'm standing in the dim light of my living room, the soft hum of the evening settling around me. It's one of those nights where everything feels still. I glance at my phone, my heart racing as I see Adam's name on the screen. The email pops open, and I read his invitation to a private yoga class. My breath catches. A part of me knows I should decline, that I should think of Jake, my husband, who has always supported my journey into wellness. He's the one who encouraged me to find balance in my life. But then there's this thrill, a spark of excitement that dances through me. I feel alive, and suddenly, the thought of saying no feels suffocating. I type out a quick reply, my fingers trembling slightly as I hit send. "Yes, I'd love to." As I prepare for our first class, I'm a whirlwind of emotions. I can't help but picture Adam. The way he carries himself, the confidence in his movements. I try to shake off the thoughts swirling in my mind, but they cling to me like a shadow. What will it be like? Will it be just yoga, or will there be something more? My heart races at the thought. On the day of the class, I step into the studio and inhale deeply. The soft lighting and soothing scents envelop me. It feels like a different world. When I see Adam, my stomach flips. His smile is warm, inviting, and I feel a jolt of recognition in that first glance. It's electric. "Ready to stretch your limits?" he asks, his voice smooth like silk. I can't help but smile back, unsure if he means the yoga or something else entirely. As we move through the poses, his voice guides me, wrapping around me like a comforting blanket. But then he comes closer, adjusting my posture. I feel the heat radiate from his body, and when his hands brush against my skin, it ignites something within me. I can't focus on the yoga anymore. My thoughts spiral, caught in the magnetic pull between us. Each class becomes an escape, a thrill that I can't resist. When Adam invites me to his home for a private session, my heart races with both excitement and fear. "It'll be more personal," he assures me, his eyes sparkling with mischief. I hesitate, thinking of Jake, but the thrill is too enticing, and I find myself saying yes. His home is intimate, a sanctuary, filled with soft music and the scent of essential oils. We chat easily, but soon the conversation shifts. The flirty glances, the lingering touches during our practice, it all feels charged with unspoken desire. I can feel the air thickening between us, and every time he moves closer, my pulse quickens. One day, during a demonstration, I can't help but reach out, my fingers grazing his arm. The moment our skin touches, my breath hitches. Adam's eyes lock onto mine, filled with a wild intensity that pulls me closer. I can't think. I can only feel. The distance between us dissolves, and before I even realize what's happening, our lips meet. It's a kiss that sends shockwaves through me, a mix of passion and desperation. In that moment, Jake disappears from my mind, and all I can think about is Adam. The days that follow blur into a haze of secret meetings and stolen moments. I find myself lost in Adam's world, where every touch ignites a fire inside me. We meet at a hotel, and the adrenaline rush is intoxicating. Every kiss, every caress feels like a promise, a taste of something I never knew I craved. But when I return home to Jake, I'm a bundle of nerves. I try to act normal, but inside, I'm a storm. Jake senses something is off. "You seem distracted lately," he says, concern etched on his face. I force a smile, my heart racing. "I'm just busy with work," I reply, my voice steady despite the chaos inside me. I can see the flicker of doubt in his eyes, but I push it away. I can't think about that now. I have my phone hidden under the table, messaging Adam, each exchange more daring than the last. "You can't stop thinking about me, can you?" he sends, and my heart races as I smile at the screen. That night, Jake sleeps next to me, and I can feel his warmth. I should feel safe, loved. Instead, my mind drifts to Adam, the way he touches me, the way he makes me feel alive. I close my eyes, but the guilt is a constant whisper, nagging at me. I'm betraying Jake, yet the thrill of my secret affair keeps pulling me in. Adam suggests a weekend getaway, a cabin in the woods where we can escape everything. I'm torn, caught between the life I have with Jake and this wild new world with Adam. I know I have to lie to Jake. "I'm going on a yoga retreat," I tell him, my heart pounding. He smiles, believing me, and I feel a wave of guilt wash over me. The anticipation of the weekend fills me with a mix of excitement and dread. As I pack my bag, I can't shake the feeling that I'm about to dive into the unknown. I'm scared of getting caught, but the thought of being with Adam is intoxicating. When we arrive at the cabin, it feels like a dream. The atmosphere is charged, and every moment feels like it's building to something. We spend our days exploring the woods, laughter echoing around us, and every night, the fire crackles as we share our secrets. It's a whirlwind of passion, and I lose myself in him, forgetting the life I left behind. But as the weekend comes to an end, a familiar ache settles in my chest. I know I have to return to reality, to Jake, who is waiting for me, oblivious to my betrayal. The thrill of being with Adam is intoxicating, but the weight of my choices is heavy. I can feel the world closing in around me, and I know I'm on a path where there's no turning back. I'm sitting at my kitchen table, the sun streaming through the window, illuminating the chaos of my thoughts. I can't shake the feeling that something monumental is about to happen. It all started with an email from Adam, the yoga instructor whose classes I had been attending for months. The invitation was simple, a private lesson, just the two of us. My heart raced at the thought. Jake, my husband, had always encouraged my yoga practice, supporting me in my quest for wellness and balance. But as I read Adam's words, a wave of excitement surged within me. I hesitated, imagining Jake's face if he knew I was planning to meet another man alone. But the thrill of the unknown, of breaking the routine, was intoxicating. "Why not?" I whispered to myself, before hitting reply with a quick, "I'd love to." My heart fluttered with anticipation as I prepared for our first meeting. What would it be like? Would the chemistry I'd felt in class translate into something more? The day of the lesson arrived, and as I entered the softly lit studio, the familiar scents of lavender and sandalwood enveloped me. Adam stood at the front, his presence commanding yet calm, a stark contrast to the storm brewing inside me. Our eyes met, and in that moment, an electric charge filled the air. The world outside faded away. "Let's start with some deep breaths," he instructed, his voice smooth and inviting. As I followed his lead, I felt a warmth spread through me, an awareness of him that made my breath hitch. When he adjusted my posture, his hands brushed against my skin. It was a simple touch, yet it ignited a fire within me that I had long forgotten existed. Each lesson after that was a dance on the edge of something forbidden. Adam invited me to his home for a private session, and I felt a thrill of exhilaration mixed with fear. "You won't regret it," he promised, and there was a glimmer in his eye that told me he knew exactly what he was doing. His home was intimate, filled with soft cushions and the gentle hum of music. As we moved through the poses, our conversation shifted from yoga to flirtatious banter. "You have a natural talent," he said, his gaze lingering on me. "I could teach you so much more." Our bodies moved closer, nearly touching, and my heart raced. I was dangerously aware of the heat radiating between us. "Adam," I whispered, feeling breathless. "This is intense." "Intense can be good," he replied, stepping closer, his voice dropping, "but it can also be dangerous." That day, everything changed. In a moment of reckless abandon, I reached out during a demonstration, my fingers grazing his arm. The look he gave me was filled with desire, and before I could think, I leaned in and kissed him. It was a kiss that unraveled me, a rush of passion that made me forget Jake entirely. From that point on, our encounters became more frequent, each one more exhilarating than the last. We met in secret, escaping to a nearby hotel where we could be free. The thrill of sneaking around only intensified the connection between us. Every moment was filled with a hunger that felt insatiable. One evening, as I lay in his arms after a particularly steamy rendezvous, I knew I was crossing a line. But the exhilaration of being with Adam was unlike anything I had ever experienced. I felt alive, vibrant, and cared for in a way that had been missing for so long. Yet, every time I returned home to Jake, a pang of guilt gnawed at me. I'd smile and laugh, attempting to be the loving wife he deserved. But my mind was elsewhere, lost in thoughts of Adam. The little things began to raise Jake's suspicions. "You seem distracted lately," he remarked one night, concern etched on his face. "Is everything all right?" "Of course," I lied, forcing a smile. But inside I was unraveling, each secret text message from Adam pulling me deeper into a web of deceit. Then came the day when Adam suggested a weekend away. "Just the two of us in a cabin, away from the world," he said, his eyes sparkling with mischief. I could hardly breathe at the thought. I knew I had to come up with an excuse for Jake. "I'm going to a yoga retreat," I told him, my heart racing as I said the words. "It's a weekend to unwind and refresh." "Sounds nice," Jake replied, blissfully unaware. As I packed my bags, excitement bubbled inside me. The anticipation of being alone with Adam, without any interruptions, was exhilarating and terrifying. When we arrived at the cabin, it felt like stepping into a dream. The air was thick with the scent of pine, and the sound of nature surrounded us. Each moment felt charged with possibility. We spent the days exploring, our laughter echoing through the trees. As the sun set, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange, we found ourselves wrapped in each other's arms, sharing whispered secrets and dreams. I was lost in the way he looked at me, as if I were the only person in the world. The nights were filled with passion, each touch igniting a fire that spread through my entire being. I felt free, alive, and utterly consumed by desire. But as the weekend unfolded, a part of me whispered that this couldn't last. I was betraying the one person who truly loved me. But in those moments, I pushed the thoughts aside. I wanted to forget about everything else. I wanted to lose myself in Adam, and I did. I surrendered to the pleasure, the connection, the thrill of being desired. I didn't want it to end, even as the guilt loomed like a shadow over my heart. As the weekend came to a close, I felt a bittersweet ache. I was returning to reality, back to the life I had built with Jake. But the memories of those stolen moments with Adam would forever linger in my mind, a constant reminder of the passion I had found and the betrayal I had embraced. I'm standing at the door of the cabin, my heart racing as I take in the beauty of this secluded sanctuary Adam has chosen for us. The air is crisp, filled with the scent of pine and the distant sound of a stream. It feels like a world away from my life with Jake. I inhale deeply, trying to calm the whirlwind of emotions inside me, but excitement bubbles to the surface, making it hard to focus. "Are you ready for this?" Adam asks, his voice low and inviting. He steps closer, his presence overwhelming, and I can see the anticipation in his eyes. "I think so," I reply, my voice barely above a whisper. The truth is, I'm not sure I am, but a part of me is desperate to dive into this weekend, to escape from everything that has been weighing me down. As we step inside, the cabin is warm and inviting. The wooden beams and soft lighting create an intimate atmosphere that wraps around us like a soft blanket. My pulse quickens as I remember the lies I told Jake. "A yoga retreat," I said. I can almost hear his voice in my head, asking about my plans. But now, all that matters is Adam. "Let's unpack," Adam suggests, breaking the silence. We set our bags down, and I can't help but glance at him, noticing the way his shirt clings to his muscular frame. The air feels charged, like we're on the brink of something monumental. After we're settled, Adam suggests we go for a walk. "There's a beautiful trail nearby," he says, his eyes sparkling. "I want to show you something." I nod, feeling a thrill run through me. As we walk side by side, the trees tower above us, their leaves whispering secrets in the wind. Adam reaches for my hand, intertwining our fingers. I look up, surprised, but his gaze is steady, filled with a warmth that makes my heart flutter. "I'm glad you came," he says, his thumb brushing over my knuckles. "I've been looking forward to this." "Me too," I admit, feeling the weight of my hidden life begin to lift, even if just for a moment. The trail opens up to a small clearing with a stunning view of the mountains. We stop, and Adam turns to face me, his eyes searching mine. "You're breathtaking," he says, a hint of awe in his voice. My cheeks flush at his compliment, but it feels different, genuine and electrifying. "Thank you," I reply, my heart racing. I can feel the tension building between us, a magnetic pull that's impossible to ignore. "Can I?" he asks, his voice dropping to a husky whisper. Before I can respond, he leans in, and our lips meet in a soft, tentative kiss. It sends shockwaves through me, igniting every nerve ending. This moment feels both right and wrong, like a delicious secret that only we share. As we pull away, I can see the desire in his eyes. "We should head back," I say, my voice shaky with a mix of excitement and fear, but part of me doesn't want to leave this moment behind. "Just a little longer," he pleads softly. "Let's savor this." We linger in the clearing, stealing kisses that deepen with every passing second. The world around us fades away, leaving only the two of us and the undeniable chemistry that crackles in the air. Eventually, we head back to the cabin. The sun is setting, casting a warm glow through the windows. Adam pulls me close, his hands resting on my waist. "How about dinner?" he suggests. "That sounds perfect," I reply, my voice barely above a whisper. The thought of sharing a meal with him, away from prying eyes, feels intoxicating. As Adam cooks, I watch him move around the small kitchen, his confidence radiating. "What do you usually eat when you're not pretending to be on a yoga retreat?" he teases, glancing over his shoulder with a playful smirk. I laugh, feeling a sense of ease wash over me. "Probably something boring like salad or chicken. Nothing like this." I gesture to the array of ingredients he's laid out. "Then let's change that this weekend," he says, his smile widening. "I want to show you what real food tastes like." The dinner is a feast of flavors, and as we eat, we talk about everything and nothing. The conversation flows easily, punctuated by laughter and shared stories. I find myself forgetting the guilt I've carried, losing myself in the moment. After dinner, we retire to the living room, the air thick with anticipation. Adam leans back on the couch, pulling me beside him. "Do you want to watch a movie?" he asks. But I can see in his eyes that he has something else in mind. "I'd rather do this," I reply, leaning in closer. Our lips meet again, this time with more urgency. His hands find their way to my hair, pulling me deeper into the kiss. The world outside fades into oblivion as we lose ourselves in each other. I can feel the heat rising, the chemistry igniting a fire within me. Every touch, every kiss, feels like a promise of something more. As the night deepens, we move to the bedroom, the atmosphere thick with desire. Adam's hands explore my body, igniting sensations I've never felt before. I'm swept away in a tide of passion, each caress sending shivers down my spine. "Are you sure you want this?" he asks, his voice low and filled with concern. I nod, breathless. More than anything. The night unfolds in a whirlwind of pleasure and connection, each moment a testament to the choices I've made. I know I'm betraying Jake, but in this moment, all I feel is Adam. The guilt feels distant, overshadowed by the intensity of the connection we share. As we lie entwined together, I can't shake the feeling that this weekend is a pivotal moment in my life. I'm caught between two worlds, and for now, I choose this one. The one filled with passion and excitement, even if it comes at a cost. As the weekend came to an end, I felt the weight of reality settling back around me, like a thick fog that obscured everything I had just experienced. The drive home was filled with a silence that felt deafening. I glanced at the clock on the dashboard. Time seemed to mock me. Just yesterday, I had been enveloped in the warmth of Adam's embrace, lost in moments that felt like they were crafted from a different world. Now, I was heading back to my life with Jake, and the thrill was slowly turning into a knot of anxiety in my stomach. I pulled into the driveway, my heart racing as I spotted Jake's car. He was home, waiting for me. I took a deep breath and reminded myself to breathe, to act normal. I stepped into the house, and the familiar scent of our home greeted me, but it felt foreign. "Hey, babe," Jake called out from the living room, his voice warm and inviting. "Hey," I replied, forcing a smile that felt like it was painted on my face. "How was your day?" "Pretty good. Just finished up some work. How was the retreat?" He looked at me with those bright blue eyes, filled with genuine interest. I could feel the guilt clawing at my insides. "It was relaxing," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I did some yoga, meditated a bit." Jake nodded, oblivious to the storm brewing inside me. "Sounds nice. I missed you." "I missed you too," I replied, swallowing hard. I wanted to believe my words, but they felt like a lie. I could still feel Adam's touch lingering on my skin, the way his hands had explored my body, igniting a fire that I had never felt with Jake. As the evening progressed, I tried to focus on our dinner, but the thoughts of Adam kept creeping in. I caught myself glancing at my phone, half expecting a message from him. I had turned off notifications during the weekend, but now I felt a gnawing need to hear from him. What was he doing? Did he miss me? I was lost in my mind when Jake spoke again. "Everything okay? You seem a bit distant." I blinked and forced myself to meet his gaze. "Yeah, just tired, I guess." Jake reached across the table, his hand covering mine. "You know you can talk to me about anything, right?" I nodded, the sincerity in his voice tugging at my heart. "I know. Thank you." After dinner, I excused myself, claiming I needed some quiet time to unwind. I made my way to our bedroom, closing the door behind me. I sat on the edge of the bed, my heart racing as I pulled out my phone. I opened my messages and stared at the blank screen, willing the words to come. I wanted to reach out to Adam, to feel that connection again, but I hesitated. What if Jake saw? What would he think? Suddenly my phone buzzed. and I nearly jumped out of my skin. I glanced at the screen, and my heart skipped a beat. It was Adam. "Can't stop thinking about our weekend. You were incredible. Let's meet again soon?" My breath caught in my throat. I felt a rush of excitement mixed with guilt. I had come home to my husband, who loved me. Yet here was Adam, pulling me back into a world of desire I had tasted only briefly. I replied quickly, my fingers trembling over the keys. "Yes, I want to see you. Just tell me when." I hit send and felt a surge of adrenaline. What was I doing? I was standing on the edge of a cliff, ready to leap into the unknown. But the thrill of it was intoxicating. The next few days blurred together. Each time I saw Jake, I felt like I was wearing a mask, pretending to be someone I wasn't. I could see the concern in his eyes when I seemed preoccupied. I could hear the unspoken questions lingering in the air. "Are you okay?" he would ask. And I would nod, offering a reassuring smile that felt more like a betrayal. In the yoga studio, Adam's presence was electric. Every time our eyes met across the room, my heart raced. He would send me subtle glances, filled with a promise of what was to come. I longed for those moments when he would adjust my posture, his hands brushing against my skin, sending shivers down my spine. Each touch ignited a flame that I struggled to extinguish when I returned home. One evening, as I lay in bed next to Jake, I found it impossible to sleep. His steady breathing was a reminder of what I was risking. I turned onto my side, staring at the darkened ceiling, my mind racing. I imagined Adam's voice, his hands, the way he made me feel alive in a way I hadn't felt in years. "Are you awake?" Jake mumbled, stirring beside me. "Yes," I whispered, my heart pounding. "Can't sleep?" I shook my head, even though he couldn't see me. "Just thinking." "About what?" I hesitated. "Just life, I guess." "Life can be tough sometimes," he said, his voice thick with sleep. "But we're in this together, right?" "Right," I replied, but my heart felt heavy. I was lying to him, and I could feel the weight of my secret pushing me further away from him. The days continued to pass, and with each one, the tension grew. I felt like I was living a double life, balancing on a tightrope. Thoughts of Adam consumed me. The anticipation of our next encounter was a sweet poison that I couldn't resist. I was in too deep, and part of me relished the danger of it all. Then Adam sent me another message. "Let's meet again this weekend. I can't wait to see you." I stared at the screen, a thrill rushing through my veins, but dread also settled in. I was about to make a choice that would change everything. Yet, as I typed my response, "Yes, let's do it," I felt a rush of exhilaration. I was choosing desire, choosing Adam, even if it meant digging a deeper hole. The reality was closing in, but I was ready to push it aside for just a little longer. I hadn't looked back, and I didn't want to. Not yet. I'm sitting at my kitchen table, the morning sun streaming through the window, but all I can think about is Adam. My heart races as I recall his proposal to meet again next week. A part of me whispers that I should stop this madness, but that part is drowned out by the thrill of what we've shared. I take a deep breath, and the air feels charged with excitement. "Are you okay?" Jake asks, looking up from his coffee. His brow furrows with concern, and I can see the confusion in his eyes. He's always been so supportive, encouraging me to explore my interests, but he has no idea what's really going on in my mind. "Yeah, just a little tired from yoga," I reply, forcing a smile. I can't let him see the storm brewing inside me. The guilt washes over me like a cold wave, but I brush it aside. I don't want to ruin our morning. As I sip my coffee, I replay the moments I spent with Adam. Each encounter was electrifying, full of tension and unspoken words. I remember the way he looked at me, his eyes dark with desire, making me feel alive in a way I haven't felt in years. "You're doing great," he had said during our last class, his voice smooth and encouraging. But it was the way he said it, the way his fingers brushed against my arm, that sent shivers down my spine. I shake my head, trying to dispel the thoughts of Adam. I know I should focus on Jake, on our life together. He deserves my attention, my love. "What do you want to do today?" I ask, attempting to steer the conversation to safer waters. "Maybe we could go for a hike," Jake suggests, his eyes lighting up with enthusiasm. "It's a beautiful day. We can take that trail you love." "Sure," I say, forcing enthusiasm into my voice. "That sounds great." But as I nod, my mind drifts back to Adam. The way he smiled at me, the way he made me feel. I can't help but think about the invitation for next week, how it hangs over me like a sweet, forbidden fruit. Later, as we hike through the trees, I try to shake the feeling of disconnection. Jake talks animatedly about work, and I nod along, but inside, I'm thinking about Adam's voice, how it commands attention and stirs something deep within me. "Are you listening?" Jake asks, catching me off guard. "Of course. You were saying something about the new project?" I reply, forcing myself to focus. He gives me a quizzical look, but he continues talking. I manage to keep up the facade, but my mind keeps wandering. I wonder what Adam is doing right now. Is he thinking about me? Does he feel the same pull, the same desire? When we return home, I excuse myself to the bathroom. Closing the door behind me, I lean against the cool tiles, trying to calm my racing heart. I pull out my phone and stare at the screen, my fingers hovering over Adam's number. Should I text him? No, I shouldn't. I take a deep breath, reminding myself of the life I've built with Jake. But the thought of Adam's invitation, the thrill of our encounters, pulls at me. I can almost hear his voice, urging me to take a leap. I step out of the bathroom, and Jake is waiting for me in the living room, a hopeful expression on his face. "I thought we could watch a movie tonight. Just the two of us?" "Sure, that sounds nice," I say, trying to sound enthusiastic. But as we settle on the couch, I can't shake the feeling of restlessness that fills me. As the movie plays, my mind drifts again. I remember our last meeting in that secluded spot, the way Adam's hands had explored my back during the yoga poses, the way he had pulled me close, his breath hot against my skin. "You're incredible," he had whispered, and I had felt like I was flying. Jake reaches for my hand, and I look at him, guilt flooding my senses. He's here, trying to connect with me, and I'm with someone else in my mind. "You okay?" he asks, his voice gentle. "Yeah, just a bit distracted," I admit, forcing a smile. "Work?" he guesses, and I nod. "I'll be fine," I reassure him. But as the movie plays on, I can't help thinking about Adam's proposition. The promise of another encounter, another moment of passion. It's intoxicating. As the credits roll, Jake leans in to kiss me, and I feel a pang of guilt. I kiss him back, but it's mechanical. My mind is elsewhere, lost in fantasies of Adam's touch, his voice, his warmth. Later that night, as I lie in bed next to Jake, my heart aches with conflicting feelings. I can hear his steady breathing, feel the warmth of his body beside me, but my thoughts are consumed by Adam. The thrill of the unknown, the excitement of desire, it's all I can think about. As I close my eyes, I imagine Adam's lips on mine, the spark of passion igniting deep inside. I know I should feel guilty, but the thought of rejecting Adam's invitation feels like a loss. I want to embrace the freedom I feel when I'm with him, even if it means betraying Jake. And just like that, the decision becomes clear. I want to see Adam again. I want to feel that rush, that connection, the way he makes me feel alive. I know I'm playing with fire, but the thrill of it all makes my heart race. In that moment, I decide to follow my heart, knowing full well the consequences. I turn to Jake, who is peacefully asleep, and I whisper, "I'm sorry." But deep down, I know I'm not sorry at all. I'm ready to embrace the path ahead, whatever it may hold.